So it looks like Donbas is having a hard time, especially that iron factory in Mariupol. Brave dudes, huh? They're sitting there and saying, now it looks like they actually want to give up. They'd like to get out of there, saying, hey, rest of the world, come and bail us out. Not such a cool idea. I suppose when the rubber meets the road with respect, who would turn around and face death in the face and be cool about it? But I sit and I look at this and I think, well, what are the objectives? I mean, for God's sake, if Putin wanted to take Ukraine, he had it. He didn't need it. He didn't have to take it and like door to door and get people to wave flags. The whole issue about it was obviously Ukraine's relationship towards NATO and NATO romancing the Ukraine and Georgia. Um, so, did he feel threatened about it? Yeah, he did feel a bit threatened. He feels threatened by that, and he doesn't like America. That's it. He doesn't like the United States. Don't blame him from his perspective. I've got nothing against America, quite honestly, except their leaders or something. They're rednecks, but otherwise, or peasants. But otherwise, cool. It's like a country. I like their movies. I like their freedom and their big ideas. But my God, they just can't choose leaders, can they? But anyway, so looking at him, he wants to. He's got the power. He controls the power into Europe. So in other words, he's got Europe by the scrotum and he's tickling. All right. He's got food that he can actually, starve out or begin to starve out the entire planet under his control right now, before the war even started. Technology, every single thing. His best buddy is the bouncer of the planet, is China. That, just stands there and just looks on and doesn't say anything. And this is the point, isn't it? I mean, we look at the thing, by fighting Ukraine and going one at a time, was that his objective to put the USSR together? Or was it actually a little bit more sinister and a little bit more obtuse? Was the entire intention to actually antagonize and to provoke NATO and America? And his objective is to dethrone NATO and the United States as the police bullies of the planet. Is that what his intention was? Maybe he went in and bombed the hell out of Kiev and stuff to start with, a couple of smaller, and didn't want to do as much damage, and thought America or NATO would jump in much earlier, and infrastructure could have been saved. It couldn't have all fallen apart. But he turns around now. I mean, if he wants to blow up, I mean, let's face it, if he wants to take that country, it is not that difficult. You don't hit military targets. I mean, this is the point, and war is changing, and I think we're going to see it in this war. If you want to take a country, you don't kill the soldiers. You kill their wives and their children. You attack the civilians. You blow up the civilians. In other words, you lower the morale so low that the soldiers will capitulate to go and be with their families. That's what happened in the Boer War in South Africa. They put the women and children in the concentration camps and slowly starved them to death. And that is why the Boers lost. And this is the same. So when that starts happening, we're starting to see Mariupol. Okay, we see he's giving these guys, these 1,000 soldiers, time to get out, and they won't go in respect to them. And I think the nationalism of Ukraine is phenomenal, incredible strength. I don't know like Zelensky much. He's a bloody movie star. He's an old actor. Man, give me. But has he got a plan? He's, yeah, we'll beat them. He's not in the trenches. He's chirping on TV to ambassadors. Typical fucking politician, anyway. But, he's brave. He's respect, everything. But he's not in the trenches. And he's playing chess. But the question, as I say, is going back to Putin. But looking at what's happening, we see this war comes around. And at the same time, we know there's been things about global warming and all kinds of major issues on the planet, which have now been pushed onto back burner. So let's think about this whole global warming thing, because this is actually where I want to go with this. I mean, the war in the Ukraine is going to turn into a global conflict or a global alliances, and it's going to hurt the planet badly. But we are going to take the eye off some of the bigger points. And as I say, climate change. We know that it's happening. Durban is falling apart at the moment. I think few, even those that were saying it was a hoax, few can deny the fact that climate is changing. But now what's happening? So now we've got a war. They're blowing up the whole thing. The power is coming out of Europe. Everyone's running to power. The states are thinking of opening up old, dormant oil mines again. Coal is coming to the forefront. So we are going into an area where we are actually going to have more climate change. Meanwhile, technology carries on and builds. I mean, I saw a car show in America just the other day, and they say 80% of the new models are electrical. So now let's just think this through. And they're saying that in New York has got sort of like 1,000 apparently electrical charging stations. And they say by 2025 or something, I think, they would need 10,000 in New York City. Now think of that coming to South Africa, where we have Eskom. Now instead of filling up your car from the petrol station, you're filling it up from a friggin' power plant. You're depending on Eskom. And if you get load shedding, the whole thing falls apart, doesn't it? So, and this is a thing in the future. We are going and putting heavier loads on power, on the power provided by the state or by the system or whatever you want to call it. And they are turning and saying renewable energy. Is renewable energy going to be able to keep up with the demand? No, of course not. Are we going to be able to phase the other energy out? Yes, the same way as Europe will eventually phase out getting energy from Russia. But it'll take years and years and years. And in the meantime, the demand goes up and up. So in other words, how do we stop global warming? Well, companies must stop using factories that put all this carbon, these emissions into the atmosphere. That's what they must do. Well, let's think this through. I mean, so they're making stuff that requires them to put shit into the atmosphere, and we buy the shit, right? Now they tell them they mustn't make it, and some other oak in China or somewhere else is going to make the same stuff because there's money to be made out of that. And then they will sell it to us, and we'll buy, and we'll make sure we recycle the wrapping and all the plastic and stuff. But hello, Earth, we feed the machine, and this is what's happening all over the world. This is the same as NATO and America in the Ukraine. They have fed the machine, they fed the monster. And now they don't want to back up. So what do we have to do? Well, the same as them in Ukraine. They're going to have to face it. They are going to have to get into the trenches and go and fight and take the fight to the man. He's not going to back off. And sitting, it's like turning around and getting into a fight and trying not to hit the other guy too hard because maybe he'll not hit you as hard back. No, man, you mur him. You try and put him down. And this is the situation here we got in Europe. I mean, this is... It's not going to go away. It can't. It's just too far. The genie is too far out of the lamp. And now it's time to, sort of realize that people are going to die. A lot of people are going to die. And the whole world is going to go into a very, 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 very sad state. And there'll probably be a baby boom afterwards. But the question is it going to go nuclear? Well, Russia said, 100%. They've got no problems with it. And so America's thinking, well, they ain't done. So now, when does Russia go for it? Okay, as long as they're winning the war, they probably won't use it. But the minute they start losing, the minute Putin comes into threat, when he comes personally and he faces the cuck, that's when it's going to happen. And that's why, I don't know, I still say that. Anyway, cut off the head. But going back to the climate change, how do we stop climate change? Aren't I jumping around? Yeah, that's how my head works sometimes. But climate change, we are not going to... Someone comes to me and says, hey, would you buy this great pair of shoes, but, comes from this pushing carbon emissions. We're going to buy them. We don't care. We don't go to the shop and say, where did you get this thing? And we won't get it to happen. And as long, even if we don't buy them, enough other people will buy it to still make a difference, still make a problem. So we talk about freedom of expression, freedom of our rights. But will the governments at some stage have to regulate what can be produced? And we're going to have to curtail and cut our tastes and our quest for instant gratification and for luxury and for the good life. We're going to have to cut it down if we want to save the planet. and save it for humanity, not for the planet. The Earth is going to be around for a couple of billion years, but for humanity and maybe even for life. And having these little skirmishes and these little things and not worrying, allowing these people of power, these oligarchs and these mega warlords to just manipulate us all, 8 billion people. And we just go and we watch like a movie as people get killed. Wow, man. And it's going to happen more. And climate's going to do more. We've got to start standing up and wising up and start taking our lives and the world back for our kids. And that's not fighting. It's not doing the fighting. It's being clever. The whole war, by the way, is not going to be fought in the big place where the shift of the war. What is the objective? Putin's achieved his objective. He's destabilized NATO, EU, and United States. Everyone's looking at them without the same respect and fear and awe. He's destabilized, and he's busy moving the economy of the world to the east, to Asia, and to Russia, and China, and of course India. That's where it's going to be playing out. Huh? Yeah, but let's look after our world and have a lacquer day.